These plant-based sandwiches won't break your bank account, but they will leave you feeling very satisfied. I'm going to show you how to make the most of some simple, affordable veggies such as frozen peas and carrots and use them in some delicious sandwiches. So let's get cooking. Let's start with the simplest of the 3 sandwiches, which also requires no cooking. We're making a smoky tomato harissa tofu with fresh lemony crushed peas. I'm using a smoked tofu and I'm seasoning it with black pepper, light soy sauce or tamari, tomato puree. I've been using these jarred ones because I find you leave a lot behind in the tubed ones. Then a couple teaspoons of harissa, you can add more if you want it slightly spicier, and a pinch of salt just to counter the slight bitterness coming from the tomato puree. I wanted it a bit more tomatoey, so I added another tablespoon of tomato puree. You can definitely give this a quick fry if you wanted to, but I found it was delicious uncooked, and cooking it can make it a little bit dry. Next, to contrast with the smoky umami flavour of the tofu, we're going to make some fresh minty crushed peas. Frozen peas are great for budget cooking. They have about 5 grams of protein per 100 grams, they're packed with fibre and pretty much every vitamin and mineral, plus they keep in the freezer for ages and they taste good. They don't go soggy like other frozen vegetables and they're really cheap. Simply defrost some frozen peas. I just poured some boiling water over them and let them sit for a few minutes before draining them and then shocking them in cold water to keep their bright green colour. Then we're going to add lemon zest and juice, about a tablespoon of finely chopped mint, a tablespoon of vegan mayo or some thick vegan yoghurt, a pinch of salt and a good grinding of black pepper. I'm just going to use a fork to crush them, but you could use an immersion blender or a food processor. Just make sure not to over blend them and turn them into a puree. We're going for a more rustic crushed peas vibe. Now to assemble, I made some focaccia last night for these sandwiches. Start with a layer of the crushed minty peas, then the tofu, and finish with some crunchy lettuce, rocket, or any green of your choice. This sandwich is so delicious. The contrast of this smoky tofu and the fresh crushed peas is really amazing. I didn't taste these on camera as there are some really noisy scaffolders outside, but I can assure you it is really good. Next up, we're making a curry tofu with pickled red cabbage sandwich. Simply combine equal quantities of vinegar and water, and then we're going to add some sugar and salt and bring to a boil. Pickling vegetables is a great way to make use of veggies that are currently in season and preserve them for a little bit longer. It's also much cheaper and the veggies are going to taste better than buying something that's not in season. For the vinegar, you can use red wine, white wine vinegar, or for a cheaper option, you can use a distilled malt vinegar. While your pickling liquor is cooling, we're just going to finely slice the red cabbage. This is going to be another tofu recipe, but if you're not a fan of tofu, then the third sandwich is the one for you. Place your red cabbage into a sterilised jar or container, taste your pickling liquor and adjust the seasoning, for example more sugar if it's too acidic, and then we're going to leave it to cool a little and pour over the cabbage. You can make the cabbage crunchier or softer depending on how hot the pickling liquor is when you add it. We're just going to leave this to pickle for at least a few hours, but ideally overnight or more like 24 hours. Next, for the tofu, simply finely slice it. Don't worry about getting this too precise. To coat the tofu, we're combining light soy sauce with a little oil and curry paste. I've got this fairly large jar from an Indian supermarket for about £2, so a couple of teaspoons doesn't really cost you much, but adds a lot of flavour with very little effort. Add in your tofu and mix to coat, trying to keep them from breaking apart too much, but don't worry if a few do. I probably cut them slightly too thin to be honest, so about a 1 centimetre thick is good. Add to an air fryer and we're going to cook for about 8 to 10 minutes, turning halfway through. We're not looking to get this really crispy as it will dry out, and no one likes a dry sandwich. It's more just to cook out the spices into the tofu. And there is your fragrant curry tofu sandwich filling. Next, we'll make a quick curry mayo. This is really easy and delicious in this sandwich, but also really nice with something like some sweet potato chips. You could use a vegan yogurt here or even tahini mixed with water for an oil-free version. To the mayo, add about 1 teaspoon of grated ginger, a dollop of tomato ketchup or tomato puree, 1 teaspoon of curry powder, half a teaspoon of turmeric, a little bit of granulated garlic, and optionally a nice squeeze of lime juice. I found this curry mayo is best left for a few hours or overnight for the flavours to sort of spread through the mayo, if that makes sense. To assemble, start with a nice spread of the curry mayo, then some shredded cabbage, a good few pieces of the tofu, and about 1 tablespoon of the pickled red cabbage, and enjoy. I'm using focaccia for the sandwiches, but classic sliced bread or pita breads would work great as well. For the last sandwich, we're making a smoky roast carrot with a garlicky and creamy sunflower seed spread. Start by washing your carrots and then remove the top and the bottom. You can peel them if you want, but a lot of the nutrients is in the skin, so I'm going to be leaving them on. Bring a pan of salted water to boil, add your carrots, and leave them to simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how thick your carrots are. You should be able to push a fork into them fairly easily. I like to then prick them all over to help the marinade absorb into the carrot. For the marinade, I'm combining vegetable stock for the base flavour, then soy sauce for the salty and umami goodness, smoked paprika, cumin for a bit of earthy fragrance, granulated garlic, and a little bit of Dijon mustard for an extra kick. Also a good grinding of black pepper, don't need to add any salt as there's plenty in the soy sauce. Whisk to combine, and then we'll just add our carrots and let them bathe or marinate in all those delicious flavours. A few hours is okay, but overnight is much better. Also, if you've got a marinating bag, that can work better than a Tupperware, as I had to top mine up with a bit of veggie stock so that it covered them properly. Next, for the sunflower spread, simply blend the sunflower seeds with water, garlic, nutritional yeast, lemon juice, and some seasoning. Sunflower seeds are a great alternative to cashews when making this sort of creamy sauce to use in pasta, sandwiches, salad dressings, and so on. They're cheaper and great if you need a dish that is nut-free. If your blender isn't very powerful, you can soak the sunflower seeds for a few hours or overnight. So the carrots have been marinating overnight, and now we're going to air fry them just to give them a nice bit of caramelization and of course flavour, as they're already mostly cooked. Add a little oil and air fry for about 10 to 12 minutes, turning halfway through. Optionally, you can make a quick glaze using some of the marinade and some maple syrup. Brush this on and then cook the carrots for another few minutes or until golden and slightly charred. And there you have a delicious sandwich filling. You can also use them as sausages or hot dogs. They're lovely and smoky, sweet, and they've got a delicious caramelized flavour on the outside. Spread on your sunflower seed mix onto the bread. You could also use hummus if you didn't want to make the sunflower seeds bread. And then we're going to top it with a little lettuce and finally those smoky sliced carrots. The sunflower seeds bread can be slightly bitter, but I find the sweet carrots counter this well. And there are your 3 sandwiches. Hopefully you've got some inspiration from this video, but you of course need some snack ideas to go with these sandwiches, so check out this video.